Welcome to DIYeasycrafts and Knifemaking.com. Today's episode, we're going to take a look at how to save money using stainless steel tool wrap while heat treating stainless steel. Now, knife makers use tool wrap and they create a airtight, or as airtight as possible, envelope to wrap their knives prior to heat treating, and this prevents carbonization or scale forming on the blade so that the post-heat treating cleanup is much easier. Now, bear with me a little bit. I did not plan tonight's show. First off, this photo just shows how that envelope is sealed by double folding all of the edges and hammering them tight. That seam has to be really as airtight as possible. Like I said, I didn't plan tonight's show. I was in kind of a bind. I had to heat treat, I guess, 4 different blades, and I only had enough tool wrap, stainless steel tool wrap, basically to do one knife. So anyway, what I did was I created that envelope the exact same way. I double folded all of the edges, but I just left the length about 4 or 5 inches longer than the blade. And I figured I'd give it a try to reuse the tool wrap a second time. I'm not going to go through the whole heat treating process here. I mean, briefly, I take that knife right out of the heat treating oven. I clamp it in between 2 aluminum plates that are in a vise, and I blow air. It's plate cooling. And once it's cooled down, then I can remove it from the vise. What I'm going to do here is, after I remove it from the vise, I'm going to use a pair of tin snips to cut off the one long end. And then my plan is to just insert another blade, refold that end, and see if I can get it airtight for a second time. I'm still cooling it a little bit down after I removed it from the plates. If you notice, I use tubing instead of solid plates. That's just a personal preference. It allows me to blow air through the tube as well as in between the two plates. I feel it just cools the knife down a little bit quicker. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut off that end with a pair of tin snips. And I thought that this tooling wrap would become a little bit more brittle than it was. So kind of getting high hopes that this may actually work. This stainless tool wrap is not inexpensive. I mean, you go through a decent amount of it once you start to heat treat your own stainless steel knives. You go through a decent amount of it. So I'm going to insert the next blade into that same envelope. And I'm just going to refold it, again, following the basic principles of double folding and tapping each seam tightly with a hammer, or creasing it with a hammer. And I gotta say, I was very, very pleasantly surprised. I actually did all 4 knives with the same tool wrap envelope. The first time I did it, the first wrap was as normal. The second wrap, I cut off the end. The next 2, I actually unfolded the end and took the knife out that way, and then refolded it, and then added 1 additional fold to seal up the envelope. I have to say that each knife in progression had a little bit more scale, a little bit more decarb. Nothing, horrific. Nothing that's going to be hard to to clean up in the post-heat treat cleanup. But I'll show you a picture at the end that shows the difference. So there is a deterioration in the function of this stainless tool wrap. In the future, I am definitely going to do this again and reuse my envelopes. I'm just going to make them all a little bit on the long side. I'll probably either unfold them or cut them off. And then the next time I'm heat treating, I'll just reuse each one of those envelopes. I would not recommend doing what I did tonight, which was to heat treat 1 knife at a time in the oven. Basically, I'm just keeping the oven running way too long, and that has a cost involved in it also. But I basically proved a point. You can reuse stainless steel tool wrap envelopes multiple times. I used it a total of 4 times. The 4th one, you know, I got away with it, but I probably wouldn't do 4 again. I would very easily do 2, and I would do 3 uses out of the same stainless tool wrap. So right there, if you want to try it yourself, you can cut your cost in half easily on tooling wrap. So this is the second knife out. You can see that this is, you know, practically just as good as the first one. You know, any discoloration or carbonization on that blade is just a result of oxygen getting inside that envelope. And that's a pretty good seal. I'm just going to cool these down a little bit more before they go in for their sub-zero quench. And on this one, I'm just refolding. I had unfolded it. I'm refolding it, and then I'm just going to add 1 additional fold and then crease it all down with the hammer. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this show. I certainly always enjoy the possibility of saving a little bit of money, production costs. These are the knives that were heat treated. That was blade number 1, and from top to bottom, it's 1 through 4. So you can see that number 4 definitely has a little bit more scale on it than the first 3 did, but certainly acceptable. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this YouTube channel. I'd like to give you an invite to join us on our Facebook group, Knives and Knife Making, and certainly post pictures of your own knives that you're making. And also, you can check out Jason Northgard and my book called Introduction to Knife Making, which is available on Amazon.com. Thank you very much.